Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Night Grumpy Sound Guy Show. So tonight I will be responding to a handful of you followers who have asked me to talk about dealing with problem clients. Okay, now I used to talk about this quite a bit. If you go back through the archive of short form videos on Facebook or here on YouTube, you'll find stuff on there. If you go back into the archives on this channel, this YouTube channel, you'll hear me talking about it there. We're going to talk about it with fresh ears and with fresh knowledge and wisdom, today, hopefully from an angle that answers your questions and doesn't get me in trouble, because I usually end up in trouble with these conversations because all my clients automatically think I'm talking about them, when I'm really not. I'm just trying to answer the question. And yes, I will bring some horror stories to the table, but look, stick around. You don't want to miss a second of today's show. Hey guys, if I could just have a moment of your time to talk to you about this channel. 49.8% of you guys watching this right now is not subscribed to this channel. Will you please hit that subscription button? It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel on the public side here. And then that gives us tools and resources and for my marketing team to be able to do what we need to do to get this content out to people who really enjoy this sort of thing. The other thing is, if you're super digging this and you'd like a deeper look into my world, then subscribe to the paid side of the YouTube channel. You can join for about the cost of a cup of coffee a month, and then I do vlogs over there. I post content that never goes public, and I let you into my world. I let you into the CLP audio world, and I let you see what our day-to-day life looks like. Love you guys. Thank you for the support. Welcome back. Welcome back. So like I said in the intro, I hesitate to talk about this because every time I do, I feel like I get myself in trouble, and it keeps people from calling CLP Audio and Staging for their work because they think that they're going to be the next topic of my Grumpy Sound Guy content, or they just genuinely get mad and pissed off because they think I'm talking about them. And, really that's not the case. It's not. I had a guy like 2 years ago when I was just starting to get a little bit of momentum with the Grumpy Sound Guy content, who said, man, I can't even see how you have any clients at all, the way you talk about your clients. And I'm like, I'm not talking about my clients. I'm talking about the music business as a whole. I am painting with a very broad brushstroke. Yes, I may bring some stories in from my past. I may bring some stories in from things that I've dealt with 10 years ago or 4 years ago or something like that, but none of this is ever specifically directed toward any one person, any one client, any one band. I think that stuff has more to do with your insecurities about the things that I'm saying. And all I can say is, if the shoe fits, dude, then you figure out how to get it on or get it off or whatever it is you need to do with that shoe. I'm in neutral territory here. I'm in a very unique position where I can typically talk about the elephant in the room, and problem clients is definitely an elephant in the room subject that no one else wants to talk about, or that everyone is afraid to talk about because they're afraid they're going to get blackballed or they're going to get canceled. And trust me, the whole cancel culture is still very much alive. A buddy of mine's production company has been canceled to the freaking moon. They're probably going to be the next 5 or 10 years digging out of all the junk that has happened to them, really of no fault of their own. I mean, sure, they probably made some mistakes along the way, but no more than the mistakes that the people who are canceling them have made. I mean, let's just be real, man. Can't we just love each other and get along? I mean, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm trying to be, And you guys that complain about me blabbering before we really get to the heart of the subject, dude, go find another channel, okay? I mean, this is just, I'm trying to let you guys into my world and let you know how I really feel and try to preempt these hard conversations with a little bit of a safety net, because I'm the guy that's got to live it, dude, okay? Everybody wants a guy to come on here and to just blow his top. It's entertaining to see him rant and rave, and I've done some of that in some of my content, reaching for followers and stuff like that. But the longer I've been on here, the more I have realized that I just need to really stay focused on being who I am and being focused on how I do business and just sharing those experiences with you guys. So, with all that being said, and hopefully a very technically sound safety net underneath of me, let's move forward. Listen, when it comes to, let's just start here. When it comes to dealing with problem clients, you have to just ask yourself, do I or do I not even want to have this person as a client? Let's just be real, okay? Especially if they're people that are problem clients. Like, I have people in my circle of clients that can sometimes be challenging to work with. That doesn't mean that I necessarily am going to say no or not answer the phone when they call, because I have a business to run. I need to make money. Some of them clients are their budgets are legit. So I need to be working for those clients and need to just learn how to overcome the obstacles that are between us and that we have to navigate in order to do business with that client. That's life, man. I don't know too many of us in this business that have the ability to just sit back on some kind of hierarchy and look down on the rest of the music business and say, screw all the problem clients. I'm only working with people I want to work with. I've had seasons like that in my life. Look, I ain't gonna lie. If I'm making money and the phone's ringing off a hook and I'm double and triple booked all the time, I'm probably not going to give that problem client a lot of attention. Maybe even go as far as referring them to one of my competitors who needs the work and is in a situation where they'd be more than willing to navigate the social dynamics of working with that client because they need the money. So you got to ask yourself right out of the gate, is the juice worth the squeeze? In some cases, it really is. Yeah. In some cases, it really is. And let's face, the fact, I guess, number two would be there are no perfect clients. I have some clients that I dearly love with all my heart, would do anything in the world for. We do things, extracurricular activities together. We are genuinely a family. We look out for each other and we try to, help each other, super honest with each other about where we are with life, and not just music stuff, but just with everything. And they're still not perfect clients, because there's no one's perfect. I'm not perfect, they're not perfect. And at some point or another, we're going to kind of butt heads and we're going to try to have to navigate a tough situation together. How you handle that, I think, really defines who you are. So those of you that are looking inside this content for, ways to trap me into, oh, look, he said this client's a hard client to work with, and he said that. No, man, I'm not talking about anybody specifically. I'm just talking in general. We all have clients that we love, and we all have clients that we love less. I'll just put it that way. I don't hate anybody, but I have gotten myself in trouble, especially online, ranting and raving about guys that just, they're out to screw somebody. And let's face it, those clients exist. These are clients that are out here playing one company against another, against another, against another, trying to lowball, trying to get the lowest possible price, and get you to commit to the date. And then once you're committed to the date, they change the entire rules of engagement. And now you're on the hook for a whole bunch of stuff you didn't agree to, especially at the lowball price you took it for. Boy, I have learned those lessons so many times. I'm just done with it. I mean, I ain't saying that I'm too good for it to happen to me again, because I'm not. But what I am saying is, dude, we need to be really careful about how we navigate those situations. Because The problem with those kind of clients is they tend to be the ones with the biggest mouths, and they will go around and they will try to ignite the cancel culture, against you, or blackball you in some way or something like that. And it's like I was saying in one of my short form videos this past week, it's so hard and it takes so much time and investment to build bridges into clients' lives and into their workflow and to become an asset to what it is that they want to do. And it takes so little effort to lose all that, And I've made those mistakes. I've been in business for, over 3 decades and been doing this, for over 35 years, really. And I have made some mistakes along the way. I have let my frustration and my temper get the best of me, especially with clients who think that they can do my job better than me and trying to tell me how to do business. Nothing will turn me off quicker than someone trying to tell me how to run my business. And it's like, look, I'm the guy that has to live with whatever decisions I make after I've made them. It's already bad enough that, right off the half of everything I make, right off the top, is going to go to overhead, labor, insurance, all the things that we have to do, vehicle maintenance. I'm slowly getting a fleet of vehicles. It's like they're freaking breeding out here in my driveway. But that stuff costs money, man. And it's expensive to keep up with all that. But it's what I have to do to be equipped to service the clients that are coming to my table. You know what I mean? So I've got to find, healthy ways to navigate that. And I think I'm better at it now than I've ever been, but I definitely, especially when there's a lot of stress, we're already dealing with a lot of stress, trying to get up and going and that sort of thing. And then the client wants to come and pour, 6 more freaking gallons of stress on top of that. That's where I usually lean on my staff and just say, hey, or help him, give him whatever he needs. I try to yes my clients to death until we get to a situation that could cost me money, or a situation where we're compromising safety protocol. And believe me, I've been in that situation many, many times, especially when you're dealing with weather-related issues. Let's take a scenario where you're out in the middle of a cornfield or whatever, a football field out behind a high school or a middle school or something, a soccer field or whatever. You're running everything on a generator, and you got electrical storms moving through the area. As soon as you start seeing that lightning, you got to shut down. And protocol is to wait 30 minutes from the last lightning strike you've seen or thunder that you've heard before you can start back up. Well, even if you just have a micro cell of storms coming through, that can still take an hour, maybe 2 hours, something like that. And then once the rain stops and the wind stops and you're watching the storm, go off into the horizon, you're still seeing lightning. You can't get going yet. We're still trying to get staff on stage to try to squeegee the water off the stage. We have a canvas roof on our stage, and water tends to pool on the roof. And then if the wind blows, guess what? Dumps all that water down onto the stage, many times on the backs of the drummer or on the foot pedals of the guitar players. So we try to get up there and we try to, take our squeegees on a ladder and push all that water off the roof and really try to make this as safe as we possibly can. We put fans out on the stage to dry the stage up and that sort of thing. But those are scenarios where I've had promoters come to me saying, people are leaving, we have to get the band back on stage. And then I have to stand my ground in that scenario, and I have to say, no, we can't do that. Because we're still seeing lightning here on the horizon, and lightning can strike as far as like 10 miles away. So we have to wait until 30 minutes after the last lightning strike before we can get back up and going. And I've had guys stand there and literally yell and scream at me because I wouldn't put the band back on stage. But I stood my ground, it made them mad, and they never called me again. But let me paint the alternative to you. So let's say I, surrender to the pressure of the promoter and push the band back on stage too soon, and lightning strikes the stage, or lightning strikes somebody on the stage or something like that, or someone gets electrocuted and hurt, or God forbid killed. When that case goes to court, that same client that was standing there yelling and screaming at you to get the band back on stage, his lawyer is going to stand up and say, Mr. Everhart was the expert on site, not my client. It clearly says in his contract, he dictates when the bands go back on stage. Now, I can stand there and say, hey, well, this guy was literally yelling and screaming at me to get the bands back on stage. I'm trying to salvage a client here. So I kind of just succumbed to the pressure and put them back on stage, and unfortunately it didn't work out. Well, dude, that's not going to fly to the families that are sitting there who have lost loved ones, or people who are permanently disabled because they were electrocuted. Electricity and human beings they're not compatible, okay? You run electricity through someone's body, there's going to be consequences and repercussions to that, you know what I mean? We use electricity to execute criminals. I mean, come on, dude, this ain't rocket science. I always remind them of that. Like, hey, look, I'm the guy that's responsible for this, not you. You may be the grand poobah of the event, of the festival, and everybody bows down to you, but on this one specific subject of safety, it's my ass that's on the line, not yours. And if I say no, then it's no until I say yes. Now, it's not that I don't want to put the bands back on stage. It's not that I don't want to give you what you're paying me to give you, but I have to keep safety in its proper place. Some clients don't care. They don't want to hear none of that. They're just worried about people that are leaving because they didn't provide tents, or they didn't provide a place to shelter in place to wait out these kind of storms and that sort of thing. I did a festival 2 years ago with some really good friends of mine, big 80s tribute band here locally, and we had that exact scenario played out, and the promoters totally submitted to my authority on it. The band submitted to my authority on it. Of course, the band don't want to die either. They have their own interests at play here. And the promoter, we were in a situation where we had big airplane hangars around us, and we were able to get everybody to shelter in place inside the hangars. And we sat there for 90 minutes, maybe an hour and 45 minutes, something like that. It might have been 2 hours before we got everybody back on stage. But we got them back on stage. Everybody came out of the hangars. When the line of showers passed and the lightning was gone, guess what? Dude, we fired up and we made it happen and had a wonderful show. And that was a great example of how that scenario is supposed to work. But hey, let's face it. Sometimes it don't work out that way. Sometimes you got promoters and you got clients that just do not care. They're only worried about what they want, and many times they're people who have never had to digest the word no. So when you're someone that tells them no, that strikes a nerve with them. They're usually triggered, and then they end up becoming a 12-year-old who's never heard the word no. It's the same way with, site conditions. I'm pulling a stage and a box truck onto your site. If it's rained for 4 days before the show and we finally got a nice, wonderful, shiny day, my question is, before we go off the curb and go onto your off-road environment where we're going to set up shop, are you going to take liability or take responsibility for hiring the tow trucks that are going to have to tow us back out of your job site if it's muddy? And it could look green as grass, and you go start driving stuff over it, and you sink like a rock. I've seen it 1,000 times. I used to drive concrete mixers years ago when my kids were little, and we poured concrete off-road regularly. So believe me, I know what that feeling's like to start driving across nice, plush, green grass, and then your vehicle sink into the mud, and now you're done, dude. I have all that stuff in my contract. A lot of these guys don't like that. Something else I have in my contract that bad, toxic clients don't like is that I insist on big festivals where, we're talking serious money here. They pay a deposit when they sign the contract, that secures the dates, but then the remaining part of that payment has to happen 5 days before the event. And that sets off a whole lot of people who are looking to shortchange you the day of the event if ticket sales don't work out or if it gets rained out. Neither one of those situations are my problem. I don't assume any risk in any of these sort of situations. It's just not what I do. I'm not in the business of assuming risk. I'm not the promoter, because here's the deal. Whatever a price we agree on is what I'm going to get paid, whether you make $1 million or you make $3. The person who takes the risk to put on the show are the ones that, you've heard the old saying, no risk, no reward. They're the ones that are taking the risk in hopes of making big money. And when it's successful, they make big, big money. Not once in 35 years have I had a client come to me after the show and say, JR, I know you did this for like $2,000 cheaper than you usually do it on, but we had a great day today and we made a lot of money. I'd like to go ahead and give you that other $2,000 and get you where you really felt comfortable with, because we want to do work with you in the future. Not once has that ever happened. They will hold you to that lowball price and laugh all the way to the bank while you're sitting there barely turning any kind of measurable profit, in hopes that maybe, this will turn into something. Maybe we'll get 5 shows or 6 shows a year out of this client, or, maybe. And sadly, in today's world, and I see this more and more all the time, and it makes me sick to my stomach, makes me want to vomit my mustache off, okay? And that is clients that will lowball you, dangling that carrot in front of you, saying, hey, give me a break this year. We're just getting going. It's our first year or it's our second year. We haven't really gotten established yet. And then next year we'll give you more money. And as the event grows, we'll happily pay you whatever it is that you normally charge. So you, being the nice guy that you are, say, yeah, sure, okay, that's fine. I mean, we see a future here, especially if they're saying they're going to do 2 or 3 festivals a summer or 5 or 6 festivals a year, from spring to fall, and this is going to be a big deal, and man, we're all going to make money together. We just kind of need to work together to get this thing going, and you're a nice guy, you're getting on the team with them and all that sort of stuff. And then the next time they do an event, they call one of your competitors, because they're cheaper than you, or they're whatever, fill in the blank. It really breaks my heart to have to realize where we are as a society that way. But loyalty does not go very far. Like, I'm crazy loyal to my clients. I'm old school, I'm Gen X, I'm just kind of the way I was raised. I was raised with major work ethics and to treat people right, and in a Christian home, and that kind of stuff. The only time you're going to get any attitude out of me is when you're trying to screw me, because I'm never going to be in a good mood when you're trying to screw me. I'm never going to be easy to work with when I know you're trying to screw me. And you're not going to fool me, because I have been fooled 100 times in the past, and I've been in this business long enough to know the fools when they come knocking. And when you say no to that client that wants you to do it for cost, to kind of get on board and be part of their team and help their event grow and blah 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 and all this, when you say no to that client, then they go and they tell everybody else in the community that, oh well, JR wouldn't work with us, he's too good for us, and blah 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 and this, that, and the other, and then you get a bad rep. Sounds like our local Air Guard is having some routine fly-arounds here today. I actually live, as a crow flies, really only about a mile and a half from our Air Guard, and we love those guys. We never complain about them making some noise in the sky while they're running routines. Some of my people that I love work over there, so yeah. But they kind of stick their little jet noise nose into my content every now and then. So yeah, when you tell that client no, well now all of a sudden you're the bad guy. when really all you're trying to do is protect your own rear end, you know? Like this business is so tight, none of us has the ability to just continually lose money because we're doing gigs for cost or just a hair above cost. Because when you're doing a gig for a hair above cost, that hair above cost is what pays for tires, brakes, oil changes, you know, vehicle maintenance, gear maintenance, you know, replenishing broken gear every year. So that's not even profit yet. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, 50% of everything I make goes right out the door, you know, to overhead and to operational costs. That doesn't factor in a whole lot of things like insurance with the state. Gosh, man, and Uncle Sam just kills us as small businesses with you know, insurance, and then all the liability insurance that we have to carry to do these events and to be operating in a correct manner. You know, if you're a client listening to this, I would ask you to, whoever it is that you're hiring, make sure you ask them for a copy of their business license and their certificate of insurance so that you know that you're working with someone who's at the bare minimum a real legitimate business and not just some weekend warrior who's out here doing whatever he wants to do and making a quick buck. Because if you don't do that, excuse me, and something goes wrong on the job, guess who's going to be liable for all that? You. And you can say, well, the hell I will. If it was on him, it's on him, and I'll sue his ass. Well, you know, if the guy don't have two nickels to rub together, what are you going to sue him for? You're just going to waste a bunch of money in court to get him to admit that he was wrong. I mean, I guess you can get that out of him, but as far as trying to get blood out of a turnip, well, good luck with that. Keep squeezing that turnip and let me know when it turns to blood. You know, I mean, it just ain't going to happen. Always pay a little more. Always, and I'm talking to the clients now, always pay a little more to get someone who has a reputation, you know, a good reputation, someone who's licensed and insured, someone who has quality equipment, you know, that's not going to break down 20 times during the show. We got a couple guys here local out here in West Virginia, and that's how their stuff is. I've been to their shows and I've seen the whole system fall apart in the middle of the show. I've seen light rigs completely go dark for a song and a half or something in the middle of a set, you know, because they didn't have their stuff together. Now, look, I ain't saying that none of us aren't susceptible to gear failures, because we're all susceptible to that. Crap happens. But at the same time, if you're someone who's staying on top of your gear and doing the gear maintenance correctly and making sure that you're carrying relevant gear to what your clients are expecting from you, then you don't have many of those problems. Very, very rarely do we have that issue with CLP audio. Not that we're immune to it, because none of us are immune to anything. But, you know, when you put a lot of effort into trying to keep up with your gear, hey man, that goes a long way. It really does. You know, when you put a lot of effort into being consistent, you know, those are the things that you should be looking for as a buyer, as an entertainment production buyer. You know, you're the client, you're the boss. You need to be picking guys that bring those kind of skill sets to the table. I always say this: shopping for production is like shopping for a tattoo. It's not something you want to bargain shop for, because once you get a tattoo, it's on your arm the rest of your life. It's on your body the rest of your life. You have to live with that decision. Well, it's kind of the same way with your event, especially the bigger events. You know, once you light the fuse, man, it's on. You know, and if you got somebody who's constantly having issues with keeping their sound system going, yeah, had a guy here about this has probably been 6-7 years ago, who lowballed a buddy of mine down in Baltimore for a show out here along I-81, and because he didn't get the show, he jumped in the car and came out and bought tickets to the show and went to the show. And then at the time, I was a house engineer at a place in Frederick, and he stopped by there on the way back through, and was like, have you ever heard of so-and-so production? I'm like, oh yeah, I know all about them. He's like, well, this guy cut my throat on this gig with this national band, and I just went and seen the show. And he's like, first of all, it sounded horrible. Second of all, he couldn't keep his gear running. It kept shutting off. I'm like, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you get what you pay for. You know, if you go with that lowball client, then don't be mad when it don't work out the way it is. And you lowball clients, you know, you guys that are always trying to beat everybody's prices up, don't you dare complain when what you get is dog water, okay? Don't you dare complain that, you know, this guy didn't do what I thought he was going to do, and boy, what a disappointment he was. And I have had clients come to my table telling me, talking smack about one of my competitors, and I'm like, well, what kind of budget are you dealing with? And then when they tell me, I'm like, well, that's why you got what you got, because you're not bringing a real budget to the table. You're not bringing something that's doable, something that actually makes fiscal sense, you know, in terms of doing production correctly. Production is not cheap, no matter how you shake it. The equipment's expensive. To get good quality people, I try to bring the best quality people onto my jobs that I can financially afford. And I pay good money. I pay day rates. I don't pay by the hour, and I pay these guys good money. And they know that I expect quality work from them, and they, without hesitation, give me that. But that comes with a price. You don't get that if you're a lowball client wanting to just, you know, well, I just want the guy that's going to be the cheapest guy in town. I have no desire to be the cheapest guy in town, because let me tell you something. The cheapest guy in town is only going to be in business for 3 to 5 years, and then he's going to find something else to do with his life. Because he's realized, hey, you know, the party, the cool stature of looking cool with all the bands and the party atmosphere and all that stuff, that wears off pretty quick. There's a lot of work in this business, man. There really is. Look, I still love to be around the bands as much as the next guy. There's nothing I enjoy more than standing backstage and being in that circle of musicians and talking shop and having a good time and all the festival food. Look, I'm a foodie, so I freaking love it, dude. I love, you know, the food that we get at the festivals and stuff like that, the carnivals, you know, and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, man, it's a job, dude. You know, I'm putting in, you know, 14 to 18-hour days regularly. You're only going to do that so long when you're not making any money, and you're going to finally wake up one day and say, nah, this ain't for me. And then the client will realize why legitimate companies charge what they charge. So how do you deal with problem clients? You either find a way to negotiate through the toxic, you know, bull butter or the social dynamics of being with them, or you just say no. That's how you deal with it. I will say this: budget will dictate how much bull butter I will put up with. If they have a legitimate budget and they'll play the game by my rules, keeping safety in place and, you know, getting set up and tear down, you know, the way I want it to be so it's efficient and we're not working ourselves to death, I'm much, much more motivated to work with that client who may be a little bit of a problem, maybe a little bit challenging to deal with, than I will someone who is just looking for the cheapest guy in town and is never going to be happy with whatever you do and is going to be sure to tell everybody that. Those clients are counterproductive to your career path. Let me say that again. Those clients are counterproductive to your career path because they are doing nothing to help your business move forward and to move to the next level. So I know guys that will work with anybody and everybody, regardless of budget. You know, they're just non-confrontational guys. They're just happy-go-lucky. They love doing what they do. Maybe they got a big-time day job. They don't need the money all that much. They just want to turn some kind of profit doing this. And maybe it's the one festival that they really want to do because a lot of people go to it, or some of their favorite bands may play at that festival. Whatever, man. You know, whatever. You know, it's entirely up to you. It's entirely a case-by-case basis. I take it that way. I can usually tell right out of the gate when I start asking questions, because I ask a lot of questions because I want to make sure all the cards are on the table, even before I get to the point where I'm putting all those agreed upon principles into the contract. I can usually tell by their responses to those questions and that conversation as to what kind of client they're going to be. I'm a detail guy, and I don't leave any stone unturned, you know, and I want to make sure that we're not missing anything, you know, when we do this. If they're a client that recognizes that out of the gate, answers all my questions in a professional manner, in a timely manner, and we're both on the same page and just trying to make the event the best it can be, dude, we're gonna have some success, and we're gonna have a good time, you know, and they're gonna be happy, I'm gonna be happy, we're all gonna make money, hopefully, you know, if the weather holds off and that sort of thing, and people get off their rear end and attend the event, it's gonna be good stuff, you know what I mean? But if they're not all that, then, you know, you just got to look in the mirror and ask yourself whether this is worth putting up with. I know me personally, in my world, I'm pretty selective as to who I will work with regularly. I usually try to give everybody at least one shot, you know, and go do work for them at least once. And then that will usually tell the story as to what kind of client they are, especially when you're talking about club dates. Because club dates is a completely different animal than festival stuff. And most of what I've talked about in this video has been geared toward bigger day festivals or 2 and 3 day festivals, you know, in your local township or, you know, at your local brewery or something like that. When you're in the club scene, there's way, way less energy or dexterity there to deal with a bunch of bull butter. You know, those budgets are much smaller. And honestly, you know, none of us are really going to work with guys that are a pain in the rear end. None of us are going to work with guys that are making $3 grand and only want to pay you $400. You know, like, that just is what it is. You know, so here again, you have to ask yourself, are you going to work with these guys? Or you're not going to work with these guys. You're the one that has to, this is the thing I'll end with, you're the one that has to deal with them until the event is over. So don't forget that. You know, it's not book the event now, sign a contract, and then, you know, they disappear until the week of the show, and then you do some advanced stuff, and bam, there it goes. I have some clients like that, and I love them because they trust me and I trust them. So all the cards are already on the table. We have an established relationship. Some of these guys will drive you absolutely nuts with, you know, all the band stage plots, and they want to email back and forth for the 6 months leading up to, you know, the event. They'll put you in Facebook groups, private message groups where your phone's going off constantly all day. They'll put you in email groups where your phone's going off constantly every day, talking about things that have nothing to do with what you're doing, not realizing that your phone is already going off 100 times a day with things that make you money. You don't really have the patience to go through another group message or, you know, email group of stuff that isn't making you any more money than what you've already signed a contract for. So yeah. So I hope that sheds some light on that subject. I hope you're not mad at me. Excuse me. I hope I didn't tick anybody off. I love everybody. Honestly, I do. If you're one of my clients, then you're my people. I always end up in close personal relationships with most of my clients because I genuinely love them, and I want to see them be successful, and I want to be, you know, part of helping them be successful. As you guys who regularly follow me, I'm sort of a well of knowledge. You know, I have been doing this a very long time, and I know how to make money, you know, and I have a proven track record to that degree. When guys want to draw me in on, you know, some of the other things that are outside my production scope, if they're people that treat me right, man, I'm all about sitting on that board with you. You know, I'm all about, you know, being in that meeting and, you know, helping you get from point A to point B to where you're making the money that the event should be making. But that is neither here nor there. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.